My daughter was diagnosed with ASD and ADHD at 14, and she'd always suffered through her life with a lot of sensory sensitivity, scratchy seams in clothes, tags that didn't fit quite right, clothing being too tight. What we discovered was that really 1 in 5 Australians actually suffer from this sensory sensitivity. There's a gap in the market. There's a lot of kids like Mads. She can't be the only one. Really, the idea started to take shape from there. It really comes back to money, to capitals. I had a day where there's no sales on that particular day, and it just hits you. It really, you feel the lowest of lows. It made it harder for people to understand. So we removed the you, and all of a sudden, people got it and the sales increased.
Welcome to The Business Game, the show that breaks business down into real levels, from $0 to $200 billion, so founders can see exactly where they are and what comes next. Today's guest is playing at level 1, which sits in the $0 to $1 million bracket, the founder, startup and survival stage. At this level, you're proving the model works. You're validating demand, refining positioning and fighting for consistent revenue. The challenges? Doing almost everything yourself, hiring your first team member and stepping from practitioner into CEO. The goal? Turn expertise into traction and build momentum that's repeatable, not accidental. Hello and welcome to The Business Game. On today's episode, our hosts Steve Plummer and Kalina Stano are joined by Andrew Whittle. Andrew is the co-founder and CEO of Being Wear, a gender-free underwear brand built on the belief that clothing should fit bodies, not labels, and created from his personal journey designing better solutions for his daughter. He's right in the early stages of building a brand from the ground up, gaining remarkable traction in just 10 months. He and his co-founder are proving product market fit, building a loyal community and navigating the challenge of scaling without the budgets of the bigger competitors, while still doing all of this inside the business themselves. Let's dive in with Andrew Whittle.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to dive into this conversation about Being Wear and your story.
Thank you for having me.
Can you kick things off by telling us about Being Wear and about your journey to start this business?
Absolutely. So it came from a very personal experience. So my daughter Mads was diagnosed with ASD and ADHD at 14. And she'd always suffered through her life with a lot of sensory sensitivity. So, scratchy seams in clothes, tags that didn't fit quite right, clothing being too tight. And when she was diagnosed, we actually learned that is a symptom of ASD. It's a very common thing, ASD and ADHD actually. So as any parents do, my wife and I, we went into this deep research looking into how we can help her, go through life with this problem. And what we discovered was that really 1 in 5 Australians actually suffer from this sensory sensitivity, and it impacts a lot of families, every morning as they get kids ready for school. Around the same time, like a lot of neurodivergent kids, Mads began exploring her sexuality, and she asked to wear a binder rather than a bra. Now, a binder compresses the chest and gives you a more androgynous look. And what we found when we went shopping for that, or my wife went shopping for that, was that a lot of the shops selling binders, they really over-sexualized it, and they weren't really appropriate for a 14-year-old girl to be on there shopping. On the flip side, there were some brands that were selling, they had a really nice environment to shopping, but the products they were producing weren't sensory sensitive. Mads compared them to literally wearing like a Hessian sack. They just didn't work for her. So we started to kind of think, there's a gap in the market. There's a lot of kids like Mads. She can't be the only one. And really the idea started to take shape from there.
Yeah, amazing. That's great.
Yeah, and Andrew, so the idea was there, the gap was there, but what made you realize that it wasn't just an idea, but it could be a real business that could succeed?
Yeah, look, I think, and at the time we researched more and more, and the gap became clearer to us.
Yeah.
The real shift happened when we sort of stepped back and took the personal problem out of it and looked at it commercially. At the time, I was the managing partner in an ad agency. I'd been there as managing partner for about 15 years, and we'd had a good run, and I was kind of starting to see some shifting trends in the industry. AI was coming into advertising, the way the clients wanted to work with their agencies was changing. So I was really looking for the next big thing. So I was actually at an Australia Day barbecue with one of my mates, Lincoln, who was also, funny enough, from advertising. And I was taking him through the problem and I guess the gap that we discovered through Mads. And he really clicked with him. So between us, we started to explore it. And I guess we treated it like an advertising brief. We just advertised the absolute hell out of it and researched and went down and down and down, looking at local trends, global trends, and what was happening. And what we saw is obviously there's this rise in direct-to-consumer brands happening at the moment. There's a massive move globally from sexy lingerie to comfort lingerie. There's a really high demand in gender neutral and inclusive sizing. And then for us, sensory friendly is just on the up and up. Everyone is just talking about sensory friendly. So we did see it as maybe this gap in the market that wasn't being serviced here in Australia, and that perhaps we were just seeing it first.
Yeah. And you actually went all in, didn't you? You used your savings to start, and was that scary?
Yes, very much so. So the two of us at the time, so I closed my advertising agency. He resigned from his advertising role, and we both took our wives out to dinner and sat down with a business plan. We fed them some alcohol first, and basically said, "This is what we think is, here's the gap." And they've obviously been on a journey throughout, but we wanted to formalize it and really treat it like a business. So we sat them down, talking through the business plan. Here's the money we're going to have to invest. Here's the run through rate on that money. Maybe we'll have to invest a little bit at some point, but hopefully we can get to here. And lucky for us, both wives were on board. They both believe in the business and what we're doing, and they let us go and start this new brand.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome. Gotta love that.
I love the tactic though. Yeah, nice dinner out.
No works every time.
Yeah. Yourself.
So thank you so much for sharing the story of Mads and that journey. Obviously very deeply personal for you and your business. At what point did you find that being honest and sincere about why and how you started became a real business advantage?
Look, for us, early on, the story wasn't really a strategy. It was just about selling the truth. And I guess coming from advertising, we really looked at it from the point of view, we've been telling clients for years, you've got to be authentic. Be authentic when you talk to your consumers, because if you're authentic, they'll believe in you and they'll follow you. So we really made that as a stance and went out, and particularly because we're going into markets when we're talking gender-free, sizing inclusive, sensory, and a big one, sustainability. If our story wasn't true, people were going to call us out on it, and we were going to fail. So we made a really conscious decision to go out and to be authentic from the start, and just to be open and honest. We did obviously ask Mads for permission in that, and she's been part of the journey all the way. She's appeared in the backdrop on some of our PR events that we've done, and is really actively involved in the business.
Incredible.
You've built a strong repeat purchase mentality and outcomes early, and that's no easy feat. So what do you think you've gotten right about product or positioning, or even something else that many founders may miss at the early stage? Because that's the key, right? The repeat purchase. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you've got to get those customers back, because they cost you so much to acquire from the start. Look, for us, it was all about going out and solving the problem and getting the product absolutely right. So for us, the product has to feel right. So we had to look at a fabric that was going to be sensory sensitive, so super soft. We looked at different elastics for the bands, different thicknesses for the bands, and we really had to research that to make sure that was going to be the best product out there, because really, if we failed there, they're never going to buy from us again. We also looked at how we could open up for trial. In the e-commerce space, I guess small brands are often told you need to increase your average check if you're going to succeed. We did that at the start. We went out with, buy X amount and get free freight to sort of try and build that average check. And what we found is we felt we're missing orders. People just wanted to trial us and have this, product in their hands to see. So we reduced that down. We got rid of the flat rate shipping over a certain amount and reduced it back to $8.75 Australian, New Zealand wide for all orders. That kind of rewards everyone, doesn't punish people who buy less and reward people who buy more. And it was really successful. It scared the hell out of us at the start. Our average check went way down, literally people buying one piece. But what we found with that is that these people were buying, they were trying, they were liking, and they were buying again. And about 22% of our customers rebuy within the first 30 days. We have some customers that have bought 6 or 7 times. So I think opening that gap up and just letting people try, because they can't feel the product with us being an e-commerce brand, has been really successful for us.
Yeah. So just on that, I guess walking your talk is what you said. You mentioned the fiber and the material. Can you talk us through what that is and how you source that?
Yes, so once again, lots and lots of research. So we went out and we had in mind that we had to solve the sensory. So it had to be the softest fabric around. So through the research, we found a fabric called Whittle, which is made of recycled beech trees. They're sustainably sourced, so that they tick the boxes there. Whittle uses about 10 times less water to produce than cotton. And it's just this super soft fabric that is really soft and light on your skin. So much so that like a lot of the feedback we get is that people saying it actually feels like I'm wearing nothing at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's a pity you're not in studio.
Yeah, I know.
Could have tried it on. Like,
So, what has been the biggest uncertainty you've had to push through before you started seeing consistent sales?
I think for us, the uncertainty was at launch, because we're going out and we're looking to be gender-free and inclusive in our sizing. So we went out with what we called a universal sizing, which was, at the time, 4 extra small through to 4 extra large for everyone. And it really came back to the measurement of your waist or the measurement of your chest, as opposed to arbitrary numbers that a lot of brands have used. That's putting a consistent measurement across everyone. And we, that came from us finding that, females in particular do get punished. They might have the same waist dimensions as a male and they're considered to be a large, where that in the men's version, they're considered to be a medium. So we wanted to level that playing field completely. But in doing so, we went out and we wanted to, I guess, explain the universal sizing. So we put a U in front of all the sizing, and we really went quite heavy onto the website in terms of copy to explain it. And what we found through as we grew getting these consistent sales is that we were probably making it more complicated than what it needed to be. We're making it harder for people to understand. So we removed the U, and all of a sudden, people got it, and the sales increased. And we probably just didn't need to take them as long on the journey as we thought they would come with us.
Yeah, right. That's actually, I think that's something a lot of founders do in that early piece when you're doing something that's a little bit different outside of the normal. You think, I've got to hold my customer's hand and really over-explain myself, when really we actually, there's a lot of things that we figure out on our own. When you think about, like marketplace on Facebook or whatever it is, you figure it out. There's never an instruction manual. You just kind of fiddle. So that's, I'm glad to bring that up. Yeah.
Well, because that comes from that old advertising mantra of a confused mind does nothing, right? The answer is always no. And so we want to make it clear.
Yeah.
And it's almost counterintuitive what you guys did, right? The U makes perfect sense, but when you took it away, response was better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the question became, what is the U?
Yeah.
The customers just didn't understand that. And it was there very clear on the website. But we had to look back and go, well, it's just like helping. So let's remove it, make it simpler. We're back to small, medium, and large. People do get that. And, you do get the odd return of people saying, I thought I was a medium, but actually, I'm a small or I'm a large. But really, when I think people spend their time, you've got a tool on the website that lets you, align that with your current brands. What do you wear now? You can measure yourself. We include a free little tape measure in all our orders going out, so people can double check and see what size they are. Giving people those tools, they'll spend the time, to get in and do it and to work out what they wear.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So you've got proof right now. People love your product, but obviously growth is always the challenge. So what's the hardest part about getting in front of more customers at this stage of your growth?
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really comes back to money, to capital. So we're founder funded all the way. And we're competing with some very big brands in this sector, some very big and established brands who can outspend us. Probably by the time we've had our first coffee, they could have outspent us. So that's really the big challenge. We need to be really clever with how we spend our money and where we spend it. The second one to that is that we're competing with consumers who are very rusted on with what they buy. And I will say guys here, but this is guy and girls. In our research, we found that the average Aussie, they don't really like buying underwear. It's the item of clothing that you can put off purchasing for months, and really, like, unless you're in a new relationship or you're going to a gym with a communal area, it can wait.
Yeah.
So we find that a lot of consumers, they'll actually go out, they'll buy 5 to 10 pairs at a time, and they'll wear that until they're, threadbare, and their partner literally says, you need to get rid of it. They'll then go out and buy 5 to 10 pairs again, not on sale, because it's not a considered purchase. It's an immediate purchase. They need to buy now. They'll go out and buy then, and they'll buy the same 5 to 10 pairs. We then found that, and this is more guys, but they'll buy the same color. They'll only buy black. And these guys are the ones that they will buy the same brand that their mum bought them when they left home. So we've got this really kind of rusted on consumer who is just, the habitual buying that we needed to break through. And we're trying to educate and talk to them about, you don't have to wear what you've always worn. You can wear something a bit more comfy. You can wear something different. You don't have to buy them all, 10 pairs in one go. You can buy them at different stages. You can buy them on sale. So that really became, is an interesting challenge for us there.
Yeah. How do you educate your buyers? And yes, how are you getting that message across? Because like you said, I don't even know if most men go online and even buy underwear. They're probably like, yep, cool, just grab these and
No comment. This has got really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, then it's all back to our advertising.
Yeah.
So we're just we're going out and talking about the comfort, about the sensory, about us being different, about the fabric being modal, and really pushing that. We use a lot of UGC content online, so that we engage with content creators there. We also do a lot of EGCs, so we do a lot with myself to camera in our warehouse, talking about our product benefits and why you should consider us, just to make it a bit different.
So just on that, I'm curious about you and your business partner. You've got a deep background in advertising. Has that been more helpful or a little bit of a hindrance, perhaps?
It's definitely been helpful. I think it's been really helpful for us. We actually both come from different, facets of advertising. So I was more client service and managerial, and my business partner Lind, he's on the creative and strategy side. So we actually do balance each other very well there.
Okay.
And when we sort of first started to set up the business, we sat down and worked out what our roles and responsibilities were going to be moving forward. So I ended up, with the traditional advertising suit stuff, finance, operations, warehousing. Link got all the fun stuff, the creative and advertising component, and it does work well. But I guess with that, as a startup, the both of us are so involved in everything we want to do, so we probably did fall back into an advertising relationship. In the two of us working together as you would in an advertising agency, the student and creative together, hand in hand in the deep end, executing. So that's actually what we're trying to pull ourselves out of right now.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're still packing orders, running ads, doing everything. What have you found breaks or nearly breaks when you're operating like that?
Yeah, look, it's a really tricky one. Because I assume like other founders, a lot of the stuff you're doing there, it actually feels right. Like, it feels really good. I genuinely enjoy being close to that. I enjoy seeing the customers' orders come through when you recognize a name. I enjoy talking to customers if they've got a question online about their order or something along those lines. But if you get too involved into that detail, things do start to break. So it's the classic, founder founder trap, the founder fumble, whatever you want to call it. you just get too involved into the business. So we're in that process now where we're 10 months in, and I'm trying to extradite myself from the day-to-day to build more of that focus on how we actually grow the business to the next stage, which for us is going to be going into seed funding. So it's really just getting our hands off and not getting into the detail each day.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you how you're doing that, because you're dead right. There is this tension, right, between working in the business and working on the business to grow it. And so how's that slowing you down, and how are you navigating that?
Look, it's probably slowing us down because it's taking our focus away from getting to that next level. We did have to spend that time. I think we've spent, this 10 months quite wisely, in that, getting our processes right and getting ready for scale, that we now have that proof of concept that we can go out and sell. We're just at that tipping point right now to kind of say, hey, I need to change my role, and I need to step back, and I need to be focused somewhere else, which, might not mean, or might mean I'm not in the office when we would normally be packing orders. I have to skip that. So it's changing the way that we work.
Is there some fear around doing that, letting go, or what am I going to do now? Or are you really clear about that?
Look, I think there is some fear, because I think, a lot of this basic stuff that the two of us are operating in now is right in our comfort zone. So, that launch phase, like, yes, there's been operational and process stuff to be done, but we've had to have a big advertising push behind it. So the two of us have really stepped back into that advertising role together as the suit and the creative to make things happen. And it feels comfortable. I mean, it's good when you know what you know, and you want to keep doing that. But I guess it's always in the back of your mind, because everyone says it. You just got to step back and work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah. We hear it all the time, right? And it's so easy to say and so easy to see, but doing that is the hard part, right?
Yeah.
The actual doing of stepping back and letting go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like you say, you're seeing the names come through. It feels so good.
Yeah.
This is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing. You see a name comes through, it's like, I remember that name. And then you look up the order, and it's like, I've had 3 purchases in the last couple of weeks. Like, amazing. I love that person. How good.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know.
wow.
Yeah.
So what do you think you'll need to let go of first as you scale?
As we discussed, so at the moment, we're still sharing some of those marketing roles.
Sure.
So when we launched, we needed someone to run our media account, so our meta media as such. And many of us have done that in the past, but it was probably more aligned to my skill set because it's kind of more data driven. So I took that on to learn that. So I've been managing that for the last month. So, the audience is in Meta, tracking that through the day. What's the MER? How are all the trends tracking with the ads working? What do we need to tweak? I actually really enjoy it. It is fun, but that is something that, it is so involved in the detail. It can really suck you in, and, you can really lose a lot of time. I guess to give you an example, we were loading some ads yesterday, and Lincoln was loading the ads, and we ran into an issue. We couldn't get the ads to load. So because I've been doing it, I kind of stepped in to do it, and then ended up spending about 4 hours back and forth with Meta on how do we actually get this to work, because something had changed in the system. As we can't afford to lose time like that. So we really just need to move, for me to pull back and to do something different there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey guys, just a quick break to thank our affiliate partner, HubSpot. We are thrilled to announce our partnership with HubSpot, the ultimate all-in-one CRM platform. HubSpot helps you streamline marketing, sales, and customer service with powerful tools to grow your business faster. From lead generation to automations, it's got you covered. By using the link in the description, you not only get to start your HubSpot journey for free, but you'll also be supporting our work here on the show. Now it's back to today's episode. So just on that, how long are your days? I'm thinking founders, at an early stage like that, and they're working this or they're working that. What's it like for you to give them some context?
Look, I think I think it varies. Like I'm an early riser. I'm kind of up and into the gym at sort of 4:30, and checking my phone then to see how many orders we've had come in over the night, and high-fiving myself down the street if there's been a few orders there, which is good.
Yeah.
Mads, she also does distance education, and she has an office in our office. So she works here, and her distance education works on New Zealand time. So she starts at 7:15. So I'm generally in the office for her to start school at 7:15 and working from then. And then it's kind of, I guess, through until everything's done for the day. So, that could be an early finish at 5 o'clock, or it could be at home responding to customers at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I think there's no real set time or I guess similar days. It's always different.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
And so for other founders at your level who might have a great product but no traction, based on your experience, what's the first system or lever they should try and fix?
First of the show fix, I think really for us, we built to scale from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So we invested in some systems that really, back from day one, we didn't need to invest in. So we invested in, I guess, having a warehouse and then ShipStation to manage our inventory, which then also links into Aussie Post and manages the labels and the orders going out. We didn't need to do it then, but we wanted to be ready when the time come. And we sit on an e-commerce group with a lot of other small business founders like ourselves. And you hear in that conversation a lot of these data say, I can't afford to invest into that systems now. I need to do that myself. And in the same breath, they're literally saying that they just spent 3 hours filling out Australia Post labels, by hand, typing them into the system because they haven't invested in what we do. Whereas we spent, 5 minutes printing it out and getting those orders out the door. I think that's probably the big key one is actually, investing early and being ready for scale. And that's, I think, we backed ourselves there to do that early and to spend that money. But that's now, only 10 months in is paying off 10-fold, 50-fold, like the amount of time that we've saved is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
You mentioned earlier about it was funds is a bit of a block for you. Are you looking to bring investors on board at this stage, or are you, money? How are you going to get the money?
Yeah, so we're just in the initial discussions to go into seed funding.
Okay.
So we really wanted to go out at first and to prove our concept. I think we were doing something that, right at the start felt very different. Going out and having a gender-free brand, gender-free underwear, even more. People felt that was very different. How are you going to sell that? Is that going to work? We're using a fabric that isn't traditionally used in underwear. It is used in a lot of other garments, but not traditionally in underwear. So we wanted to make sure that everything was right before we went out to scale. So to say, we're now looking to go into seed funding rounds with this proof of concept and try and grow and scale faster.
Yeah. And just on that,
Because we can't keep taking our wives out for get more money out of there. I think we've drained that well.
yeah, that's right. That ship sailed, right? Yeah, they're totally on it. Because anytime you go out for dinner, they're going, oh, what now, right? Like, here we go. Yeah. Just on that journey of now you're looking for funding, and you mentioned the fibre had never been used for underwear and all those sorts of things. There's been an awful lot of uncertainty for you on your journey. How have you dealt with that emotionally?
I think we've just had this belief that it's going to work. We've been supported greatly by family and friends who came on board and bought early for us. So actually, a lot of our friends were early testers for us, and they really supported us through. And I think even as a founder, in your darkest days, you can really always rely on your family and friends to kind of pull you out of it and say, hey, just take a step back and look at what you've done. Look at what you've achieved in a very short time. Because I think, when you are in that sort of founder's lens and you're just deep in the business and you're just slotting it out, you do actually forget what you've done in a short amount of time, and you do need to be reminded. So I think, having those people around and giving you advice is great. We also, we partnered early on. We call it our Brains Trust, and we had a group of quite close friends, predominantly female actually, because there's 2 males setting up an underwear brand. We wanted to, really get some good advice there. And this Brains Trust is to advise us on stuff, and they could help us with things around using kids in advertising or sextortion and things like that, use of AI, are we doing things right? And are we coming across as in the right sort of mindset as the brand? And that really helped, to be honest, as we grew.
That's great. I love that.
Mm.
So you've grown massively in just 10 months, which is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It really is impressive.
Mm.
So going back to what Steve asked about those first systems, let's go even further back. If you had to restart Beingware from zero today, what would you do differently in the first 90 days?
Oh gosh. I think if I was to do it differently, my wife gave me some advice when we're in the launch stage, and she had actually she'd gone through startup before, a startup insurance company, and she kept saying to me, as we're going through, you know, just take the time to step back and to look at these moments, because you're never going to get these moments back as to where you are now in your founder's journey, or where the business is right now, and do that. And like I guess like a good husband, I probably didn't listen to her enough. I just put my head down and I think had the mantra that we've just got to get in and work harder and do more, and we've got a launch date and let's just work to that and push hard. So I think if I was to go back and have those 90 days over again, I think I'd still probably want to work just as hard and do it just as quickly. But I think I definitely have myself take a few more moments to step back and to look and probably appreciate what we achieved, because, you know, getting to launch, that's the big milestone, but there's so many other milestones before you get there that, you know, you should acknowledge yourself, and, you know, shouldn't miss.
Yeah. I'm curious about AI. We can't have a business discussion these days without talking about AI. Has AI been a really big help for you? Have you gone all in on AI, or, you know, are you dabbling around the edges? So for other founders at that early stage, what's been your experience with AI?
It's been fantastic. I think we couldn't do the work that we do, the two of us, and it is just the two of us in here, without use of AI. So, you know, if I was to compare running my advertising agency, where I had a design team of 10, you know, Linking sort of now does essentially the work of that through AI. So we're using Adobe Express, which can remove backgrounds and it can deep edge things. It can do all of that, you know, you would generally have had a design spending time to, you know, spending days to do that in some instances. We're obviously using ChatGPT that helps with our copy, that gets, you know, websites up and a lot faster. We're using another program called Keeve, which allows us to create images. It also allows us to de-age the models, or the talent that we've used in our photo shoot. We can de-age them and actually make them look like kids. So on our kids side, we're actually using adults as models, but we've de-aged them back to look younger.
Wow.
And we flagged it out there, and that was actually some really good advice from our brains trust at the time. It was like, you know, no one's using kids in advertising, but underwear doesn't sell itself when it sits flat. It's not very attractive. You've got to see it on someone. So by doing it this way and putting on some models, and we flag it in our advertising and say this is an AI created image, we can get around that, and it's been very beneficial to us.
Wow.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that. Wow. And what was the program did you say that you used for that, the de-aging?
It's called Keeve, and it's KEEVX. And I don't know if it's a .com or a .ai. I think it could be a .ai.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible.
Well, very good, and it all plugs through, you know, the Google thing. So, you know, it checks the imagery as well. So it's very strict on what you get back.
Yeah.
So you're kind of ticking all that, and obviously you're pretty clear on the prompts, as to pass all ACCC standards and advertising regulations. But, you know, if you go onto our kids site, you will see we have kids advertised. They're not real kids.
Wow, that's cool.
Talking about recommendations around different softwares and things, do you have anything that you use that you could recommend to some of our listeners?
I guess the big one that saves us a lot of time is obviously ShipStation in the warehouse.
Okay.
You know, so ShipStation manages our stock. It works with Shopify. So the orders come to ShipStation, manages the stock, has our locations. It then links in with Australia Post and sends the labels out. So for compared to those earlier founders, as I say, we can do things in minutes that some other smaller businesses might be taking hours to do. On top of that, I think Adobe Express, for a very small subscription fee, you're comparing Adobe Express to Canva. It's probably the Adobe Express for the next level up that a lot of people haven't adopted as yet. And I guess for our advertising background, it's kind of Adobe is what we're used to. It just made a lot more sense.
Okay. Yeah, great. Have a look.
Yeah. Well, you've proven that honesty and story can drive growth. I know you come from a brand building advertising background. So I guess what's the invisible rule that most brands get wrong about building trust?
I think it comes back to not being true or authentic to themselves. I think, the day and age that we're in, there's so much information at people's fingertips that if your message that you're peddling doesn't align with what they can see online about you, then they're going to call you out and you're going to have a problem. And I think that's why when we did decide to be so truthful and open and honest about how the business came about, we did start to build this community behind us. And, we have people that message us daily saying that they believe in the brand that we're creating, they believe in the philosophy, and they're not actually your customers. They're not buying from us. They actually just believe in the, what we're doing is right, to go out and to be gender free and inclusive and do something for these people with sensory needs.
Yeah. Andrew, what's the biggest mistake you've made in your journey so far, and what did you learn from that?
Oh, we had a big one. We launched really successfully in August, and we were fortunate enough to have been asked onto Weekend Sunrise to do an interview or segment there, talking about Mads and the journey for Beanware, which gave us a really good set of sales leading into that. We then went into September, and we hadn't quite got our audiences right for advertising, and we had to pull the plug, and we pulled the spend back while we reset it, and we effectively ruined September sales. We went way behind what we'd done in August, and it took us really the whole month to catch back up. And we just weren't ready. We just didn't understand what we were doing at the time. So I think if we had understood, we wouldn't have done that. But it is what it is. We're just trying to forget September now.
Yeah.
Don't talk about that.
It's gone.
I have heard of a few people who have featured on Channel 7 or whatever it is, and they weren't prepared, and like something crashes, or they just it's a learning lesson that I think a few founders go through with that.
Yeah. Just on your launch, for founders who are in the early stage of growth and so forth, and either launch or relaunch, can you talk us through some of the things that you did and what got you onto national TV?
So the national TV, it actually comes back to us being truthful and honest again. So I did a post onto LinkedIn, and the producer from Weekend Sunrise saw it, and we basically got a call saying, we've seen this story, we love the honesty and the heart behind the business, so we'd like you to come on. So that really helped us launch. We did all the traditional digital marketing things, advertising through Meta. But I guess we have been lucky enough that my wife comes from a PR background, so she's been very supportive in helping us, get out there into the PR trades. So we have been picked up in a lot of trades. That sort of, it's really just helped that discussion keep us top of mind.
Yeah, wow. You guys are a great pair.
Yeah.
PR advertising.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm just going to listen more though.
yeah, it's very important.
I think there might be another dinner coming up too, actually, where you say nothing right and you just listen. That.
So you mentioned earlier about raising external capital, and I want to go back to that for a second. That's all right. So what's the next stage? What next stage would that external capital unlock that you can't do today?
So that capital will basically unlock us for growth. So that will allow us to probably make our first hire, which would be, at the moment, we're flipping between getting someone in the warehouse or someone to manage more of our media. And it would likely give us a sort of 18 to 24 month run at scale. So at the moment, our advertising budget is just limited to the funds that we have. We're probably overspending, as a lot of small businesses would do, to create awareness. But there's some point where the money runs out. So we have to manage that quite tightly. But yeah, I think having that seed funding there will really give us that next 18 to 24 months of growth at scale.
Yeah, right. And how are you preparing for that seed funding?
So at the moment, we're very fortunate to have a friend who's an ex-banker who is helping us pull all of that together. So I think it's good when you can call on friends to come in and help. And once again, back to that brains trust, all friends, all they're willing to roll up their sleeves and get in and help. I go back to when we got our first order of stock in, and the truck turned up and the tail lift broke, and we were going to have to hand unload 7.5 ton of stock. So we put a call out to friends who's working from home today, and literally got friends up helping us unload this truck. So we've been very fortunate to have a lot of really good supportive friends along the way.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
This might be I not touch wood, right? I don't want to put the mocker on you or anything, but just say that the capital raise doesn't go as well as you want. What would be the way forward then if you don't get that external capital injection?
Ask our wives for more money.
Yeah, more definitely not.
No, I think where we're at the moment is we are at a point where we can pull back our advertising and we have enough sales to come in. We can actually we can bunker down and we can get through it. We're just not going to grow as fast as what we'd like. So we're not really stalling the business there. We're kind of just slowing it down. Which if we have to do that, that's something we'll go down. But I think, from the initial discussions we've had, proof of concept, we're kind of advised that it is a pretty good viable option.
Yeah. I'd love to know, what's the ultimate dream for Beingware? What are you aiming for in, say, the next 10 years for the brand?
So we aim to be the underwear brand of choice for people who want something different, who want to be included. So our goal at the moment, we obviously launched into Australia. We did an official launch into New Zealand at the start of March, which is going really successfully. There's a great market for us there. And post that, we see a really big opportunity for us into the UK. I think that is where we sort of, the future. It's scale in the UK, and I think they are very aligned with our views around inclusivity, which we really want to foster more.
Yeah, great.
One of the questions, Andrew, we always ask our guests is to talk us through this concept of the boss fight. So the boss is that internal struggle, that external struggle that really stops you, or it halts your momentum. So for you, what's been the hardest moment so far, and how did you get through that others might learn from?
Look, as you know, as a founder, there's lots of hard moments along the way. And you feel like you're getting some momentum, and then you might have a day where there's no sales in that particular day, and it just hits you. And it really, you feel the lowest of lows from that. I think that's those moments where, going back to sort of family and friends pulling you through and actually looking at the bigger picture, that you have to really take a step back and realize that, one day out of 30 isn't going to ruin the business or to ruin what was done. It might ruin your pride on the day. It might completely strip you of that, but it's not going to be the be all and end all. I think that's our approach is really just to kind of, be open to us with our friends. They all feel like there's a part of it as we are, I think. And, they help us get through some of those tough days.
Sounds like you've got a great network behind you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have so.
All right. It has come to the fun part of the interview. We're going to play our rapid fire questions. So we're going to just throw 10 quick questions just to get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
Would you like to take the...
I would.
Yeah.
I'll go number one, right? And so just a word or a sentence for these, Andrew. I think we already know the answer to the first one. So early riser or night owl, just to confirm.
Definitely early, but I have a problem. I am a night owl as well.
All right.
Okay. One piece of tech you couldn't live without.
My iPhone.
What's your coffee order?
Long black.
What's the best investment you've ever made?
Oh. So I invested in the startup of TPG in Singapore, which at the time didn't make sense, but it did very, very well.
Office or work from home?
I'm an office guy. I love being around people and sort of being in it and a part of it.
What's your book or podcast recommendation?
Ooh, I'm a massive AFR podcast listener. So I think for a lot of founders, obviously, How I Made It and The Chanticleer is a good one. From a book point of view, I've actually just read the Peter Ritchie, The Magic of McDonald's. So Peter Ritchie was the first CEO of McDonald's in Australia, and it's all about kind of disproving some of the myths about McDonald's and how they started and how it grew in Australia.
Oh,
Okay.
take that one.
Yeah. Android or iPhone?
iPhone. I'm from advertising. It's
Fair enough. Your go-to productivity hack.
lists. Lots of lists.
What was your first job?
At McDonald's.
There you
It's probably the reason why I read the book.
go. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what career would you choose?
I think I'd probably still be in the marketing and advertising profession. But I think what I get to do now is actually using those skills, but in just a different environment.
Alrighty, last question. So, if business truly is a game, Andrew Whittle, how do you define winning?
How do I define winning? Look, I think for me as a business owner, you're always there to motivate and to lead your staff and to get the best out of them day to day. But as an owner, I guess as a founder, that's there's no one really doing that for you. So I think winning is if you can be in a role where you can jump out of bed every day and want to get to work and do something different and to make a difference. That does feel like you're winning in a business.
Yeah.
Okay. And where can people find you online, Andrew?
Beingaware.com.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thank you, Andrew. This has been really wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And please say thank you to Mad, your daughter, for us, for being so open and sharing her journey to help others as well.
And your wives.
Yeah, and your wives. Yes, at the next dinner.
Don't forget them.
Yes. Well, you're building something really special, and we really appreciate your time. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, that's all we've got time for. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to The Business Game and check out the playlist for the level of business you're currently playing.
Because every founder is somewhere on the game board, from 0 all the way to 200 billion.
Choose your level, and we'll see you next time.